Next up, we have former U.S. Department of Defense official Tony Hu. Tony, a very warm welcome to Taiwan Talks.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, so China has sailed 2 aircraft carriers east into the Pacific. They're doing simultaneous drills. What does this mean for complicating or forcing a rethink of U.S. strategy? And was this reflected in the war games?
Well, the United States actually expected China to implement their anti-access area denial strategy. Therefore, we would expect China to deploy forces like that. Therefore, and because of that, the United States has a counter. So in this war game, certainly we played out some of those counters, and we would preposition stuff. When they do this move before the first shot, before the war started, the United States would already forward position our forces and war reserve material so that we don't have this access problem at the initial fight. And once the fight starts, these Chinese forces will become primary targets for us to wipe out so that we can follow on forces to help defend Taiwan. So it's not unexpected per se. I suspect in real world, China would try to prevent U.S. full involvement, but it's doubtful that they can successfully do that.
Right. So in the games themselves, Tony, which side prevailed, Taiwan or China?
Actually, in this case, we didn't play to the point where which side prevailed. China, the game players allow China to actually have feet on the ground in Taiwan. The United States also deploy forces onto the ground because we feel it's necessary.
That's very interesting. So the political support for that, was that explored in the war games?
Absolutely, because the political support strengthens Taiwan's will to fight. So in the game, we told China, if you do this, we're going to recognize Taiwan as an independent country. And we coordinated with the Japanese team. Japanese team said, once you do that, we follow suit immediately. And of course, we expect, if you look at what happened in Kosovo war, and once United States recognized them, 14 countries immediately, then other countries now only, is it Kosovo? Yeah. The only country that don't recognize it are the Russian or the Russian satellites. Okay, we fully expect this will happen with Taiwan. If the war starts and United States take the lead in recognizing Taiwan as a sovereign country, we fully expect other countries to immediately follow. And during the war game, as I said, the Japanese team said that they will immediately follow.
Mm. And so I understand that originally there were 4 moves that were planned.
So there are 4 individual games unrelated to each other. So the first one, obviously, China is sending a political statement, and then the blockade, which, as it played out, the anti-blockade movement is very successful because, once again, the coalition came together with escort convoys to deliver daily at least 5-6 ships coming into Taiwan with necessary energies, the coal and the LNGs, and food and medical supply and munitions. And the United States will establish an air bridge to use airlift to bring in critical supplies. So to beat the blockade actually was fairly easy. It's not that difficult to break a blockade. And the foolish thing is if China do blockade, once again, it gives the coalition forces time to forward deploy because we know if the next move is actual combat. Right. So
going back to that political authority, we always say, the militaries practice, they rehearse for responding. Of course, we know that. But then it comes to the individual presidents, the political decision of whether to actually put soldiers' boots on the ground.
Well, we fully expect to have early warning of Chinese actual military invasion because they have to move forces and other materials to help ensure that when they strike, they can win. We actually talked about it during the game among the U.S. team, where our regional commander in Indo-Pacific Command would go to the president and say, listen, President, we're seeing this. I recommend we get ready to implement our war plan and recommend our war plan have different options, execute this option. And so that political decision most likely were made on the front end, not when China make this first shot. So I think people need to understand that. The U.S. decision-making process is not after China launches missile.
It's well before that.
Well before that, when we see strategic warning that China might be attacking, that decision should already be made. Okay, so I think it's important for people to understand.
So it's interesting that alongside the military operations in this war games, there were different tools: diplomatic, information, social economics. Tell us how these were advantageous, how they were used.
Well, certainly, economic is a tool, just like with Russian economic sanctions. Okay, information, strategic communication to let the world know who's the bad guy. You have to win the
narrative war.
The narrative, the opinion war, right? So that's part of the information process. So in our play, one of the moves we did was tell the president to go on TV and tell the American people why Taiwan's important, why we need to defend this democracy. So it's part of the information war. And so the responses that the category that we have to provide. And one of the things we provided was to have the president go on the TV say, because a lot of Americans don't know what Taiwan is, why Taiwan is important, and why we need to protect the democracy. That way you will have the support of the American people as we could come to help Taiwan.
Right. And just curious about your opinion of all the activity, it appears to be increasing what China is doing in the region. 70 vessels across the first island chain in May, also these aircraft carriers. In your view, is the risk of war, what is it like at the moment? Has it increased?
I think the risk of war has increased just because the ambition of Xi Jinping. The risk of war might also increase because of the likelihood of an accident, okay, an unintended start of a conflict. So yes, the overall risk has increased because of the Chinese irresponsible actions, let me put it that way, and also the urgency that Xi Jinping might be feeling about trying to do something. So yeah, the risk has increased.
Right. And Admiral Samuel Paparo, he's the head of the Indo-PACOM, says that the drills that China undertakes around Taiwan, they're not exercises, they are rehearsals, that they are a fig leaf for military action. It could change, in a minute from drills to actual action. Did this occur in the war games?
Because what you want to do from exercise to actual warfare, you want to have the surprise factor and the fact that everybody knows this might be a possibility. There is no surprise factor. So even in real world now, as they exercise, the intelligence collection against that exercise and stuff, the surprise factor, I would be surprised if we're surprised.
Right, okay. So Paparo managed to fulfill his goal in alerting people to this, right? Were there any other surprises, Tony? You've obviously been in this kind of exercise before.
It's one of the better ones I've been in. I've been in many since I was a young captain, and until now, I've been in many war games, and this is one of the better ones. And also, it has provided lessons learned.
What is the key one, do you think, that they need to take away from this?
I think the key one, I would say, is to have a route of engagement in place in case, right now China's intrusion is getting closer and closer. It's already in 24 nautical miles. What if they get into your territorial airspace or sea space, 10 nautical miles? What is the route of engagement for that Taiwan ship captain, the F-16 pilot? So you need to have this route of engagement in place so that they don't have to ask, boss, what am I supposed to do? Well, you already know what you're supposed to do. So it's not an easy answer that route of engagement is it's going to be very complicated because Taiwan don't want to fire the first shot, for example. Some of the political constraint is affected, but don't make that ship captain try to make that decision at that point, or the pilot. You need to have it ready to go and already briefed. When you go up to intercept the Chinese Su-30 and he decided to come into 2 miles into our territorial airspace, what do? It should not be on the shoulder of that F-16 pilot. It should be a combined response of some type and try to chase the guy away or shoot him down if you have to. You know, there ought to be some kind of rules that it's already in place. That's one of the lessons learned. I thought that's very important out of this war game.